Warning, this video is intended for adult collectors. It contains plastic collectibles, questionable opinions, and someone that's given too much money to Hasbro. Do not panic. This is just a random review.
Before we begin, thank you very much to Unknown Hand for joining my Patreon campaign. Very appreciated. Thank you so much. You guys have been insane this month, by the way. If I have gone a day this month without a shout out for my Patreon, I can't remember what it is. You've got me on this, like, I have to shout out literally every video this month, and I love you for it. Thank you guys so much. If you're willing to support me, I am willing to keep the grind going, and we're just gonna keep on rolling, give you something to watch every single day. I'd like to think no one grinds like me, but I know there's people who do this insane daily schedule too. But we will roll on here. Today we are talking about Leo Prime, or if I call him Lio Convoy throughout this review, apologize, because that's how I've always known the character. I've had the original toy for a long time now, so kind of hard for me to call him anything else. It's some weird trademark thing that Hasbro can't use the word convoy. Like Takara's got that word so locked down in trademark that even Hasbro can't use. It's weird. It's weird. Point being, we have to call him Leo Prime for legal reasons, and he represents what you'd expect. He represents a very nice incarnation of Beast Wars 2 Lio Convoy. So let's take a look and see what you get at the Voyager price point for our brand new Leo Prime. You get a very bright white lion with a very lovely golden mane. I can relate. Yeah, so this kind of follows in the same vein as the Kingdom style of Beast Mode, where they're trying to be a little bit more realistic with the shapes and the textures of the toy. So the lion's fur is a little bit more subtle than it was on the original Lio Convoy. And I think the mane flows a little bit more realistically. It still has very much of a Lion King-esque flow to it, but it's not the worst thing I've ever seen. Definitely works. There is an obvious, don't get me wrong, we all know what the weird part about this toy is. We will get to that. For now, I will point out that this gold mane extends down to the tail, which is considerably smaller than the original. During transformation, you will see why. And we will admit that, like a lot of beast modes, this one leaves some robot parts exposed. You can't really avoid that most of the time. So, you do see that, I'm not going to call it what that body part is, but you can see the gray between the legs. I'll let you fill in the blank, literally. But you also see the leg kibble is also still there, exposed a little bit. You see some exposed parts for the red, a little bit of red here at the hinge. But other than that, very solid lion. The underbelly is even covered up, which is a nice little touch. And then beyond that, a little bit of gold for the claws. Not the most realistic, but it does look good. I do like, some nice gold claws. Nothing wrong with that. And I'll go ahead and give you the playability. There's not a whole lot. Some of the Kingdom molds had some really good articulation on the beast. This one is kind of there. So you do get some rear leg movement here. It goes outward. Forward and back, not quite so much. You got the digitigrade leg that you can play with all day, as well as a few swivels there below, above the knee and then at the ankle. And you can actually tilt that as well. So you can get some kind of stalking or like about to pounce poses out of them. The front legs are considerably more hindered. They can go back and forward a little bit, and they can rotate just below that point. But that's about all. That's about it. That's all you're going to get out of those. Which ultimately means that he doesn't quite have the playability that some of the Kingdom Beast modes had. Not that I would expect that at all times. Okay, let's talk about this. So if we go and actually take a look at the head, we will notice, yes, he does kind of have a derpiness going on to him. And I think this is twofold. Number one, yes, it's because of the downturned snout. Now, if you look and do some research, yes, you do see lions in the wild that have these downturned faces to them. So in some senses, this is more accurate. It just doesn't look as cool. It doesn't look as cool as when it's protruding forward. It just kind of looks a little bit dopey. And I think a big reason for that is their choice to completely leave his eyes gold instead of painting them or making it more anime accurate with actual painted eyes. So I think that's one reason why it's suffering, but also it just looks off. It just looks odd. Yes, you can make the Edward joke now. I know everyone already has. So, yes, it's a weird, doofy face with a very downturned snout. I really would have appreciated them doing something a little bit different, but that's the way it goes. Weirder to me, and this is because I have little nitpicky things like this, is the mane is actually 3 different shades of gold, which I don't know if I can even pick up on camera. And aside from the weirdness of, like, you can see his ears sculpted in and they're not white, like they should be, the mane itself has this mostly kind of like a little bit of metallic yellow. It's like, it has a shimmer to it, but I wouldn't call it like, it's not gold. It's not gold, so don't worry about it breaking or anything. Should be fine for that. But you'll notice that there is like a flatter yellow being used at some part. These are hinges for the exposed weapons that we can flip forward. So you can have some surprise weaponry going on in the lion mode. That's always fun. Flip that down, and then toward the back, this component, which is separate from the rest of the mane, painted in gold. 3 different shades of gold going on in this mane. Just in case, that's how you can tell someone dyes their hair, by the way, when it's horribly inconsistent blonde. So that is the beast mode. Now we should take this into robot mode so we can see if the weirdness of the face is worth what we actually get in the final version of the toy. So first off, we have to disassemble his back, which starts in the middle, where we have to unpeg this. This is the part where reviewers always keep their thumbnails untrimmed, specifically for getting into little gaps like this, because some of this is just a little bit hard to access, as I'm having trouble immediately from the very first one. And this one's the trickier one, because this is pegged in tighter. Oh, or not. Sometimes it'll just cooperate with me. Never mind. All right, so those fold up out of the way. We can also unpeg the butt from the rest of him. And then we have this nice little like lion lasagna going across his back. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and do the legs. The legs are pretty simple because, you know, it's standard Beast Wars fare. Extend the legs out, stretch out those knees and straighten them out. We'll rotate at the thigh and then rotate again at the ankle. And then we'll flip out the heel spurs so he's nice and stable. There we go. All right, so that's basically the waist section of our robot already done. Now, if you go up to here, we'll go ahead and take these little pieces on the red hinge. We'll fold them out of the way, unclipping what will be the robot mode arms. And once that is done, to the underside, this becomes the robot mode chest. But for now, we need to separate it out so we can rotate all of this down, get it all the way down here. All right, so from here, we got a few different places we can go. We can go to the arms. We can go to finish off the chest. Let's go to the arms first so we can save the dramatic head reveal. Go ahead and flip that fist forward. Make sure it clicks into place. The main. Keep it out of the way just until we get this settled. So we're going to rotate the paws like so. And then fold these back like that. Then we can straighten them out. Make sure they are angled downward correctly. Rotate around as needed. Now we can fold up the last bit of mane, snap it back into place. Do the same thing on this side. Lather, rinse, repeat. Hey, if we're going to talk about hair, we might as well make the shampoo reference, right? All right, so same thing. Rotate the paw, fold the paw, and move down like that. Click hair onto arm, like so. That's our robot mode arms. Now, the part of the transformation I really like, and I think this is super clever. The chest opens up and folds down. Rotate it all the way around and then put it right back where you got it. And that's how we reveal the cavity that hides the robot mode head, and how we get all of this ready to form the chest of Convoy. or Leo Prime, depending on your legality, or what you grew up with, I guess. I suppose there could be people that got that Cybertron Leo Breaker repaint, and Leo Prime is just the name you've always known him by. It's all types in this Transformer community. So yeah, there's the part I really like in the transformation. So once we got that done, get the arms out of the way so we can rotate this whole section along the spine. Make sure it clicks into this little space right here. From there, go back to the front so we can rotate all of this back into place. Make sure everything's like well adjusted. Fold the tail inside. That's why it's so small. The lion head can shift back and squeeze down and tighten up across Leo Prime a little bit more. And then toward the back, this piece doesn't really go anywhere. It just kind of rests there. So just find the spot where it seems comfortable and move on with your day. But that is going to be our transformation process for one Lio Convoy. It takes a little bit of getting used to, especially when you're getting into how to get the arm, like especially getting the arms back into robot mode, into beast mode can be a little bit tricky. But it's an involved transformation. It has a layer of complexity to it that we don't really get in Transformers often these days. So I know a lot of people who really like it. It's not as much one of my preferred transformations, but it's got a lot going on. So if you like your transformation processes, this one is going to be a really good one for you. All right. As evidenced by the fact this took a lot longer to talk about than I expected. So, no surprises if we go straight into the head, because it just straight up looks like an Optimus Prime head sculpt. The fun thing about Japanese versions of Beast Wars is no matter how different the toy itself was from the original Optimus Prime, they still tried to pull it back into a G1 looking Optimus Prime. You know, as opposed to the Beast Wars Optimus Primal, that tried to steer away from that original design and only had some influence in the head sculpt. So it's kind of funny the different approaches America and Japan had to essentially the same idea. Turn Optimus Prime into an animal. You know, they did that in G1 as an alligator and no one bought it. So we got two different ideas going now here. And then a third idea later on. So in robot mode, obviously, a lot of that white gives way to the traditional red and blues of Optimus Prime. Oh, I'm sorry, Convoy. And yeah, he does have this like strangely like G1 aesthetic to him, right down to the hands being blue and the rest of the arms being red. The two windows on the chest, even though they are notably different, of course, than the windshields, but the abdomen is similar. The waist even has the same little yellow hits on it. Like, there's a strong G1 influence to this, to the point where if a kid buys this today, they're probably just going to call it Optimus Prime, because that's who it looks like. You know, so it's a really interesting design for its time. It's an interesting one to bring back now, as the perception of Optimus Prime and Convoy is a little bit different than it used to be in the mid-90s. We look around. So, kibble-wise, yes, there is a bunch going on. The trick to that is it's pretty much accurate. Like, this is pretty much how the kibble on the original toy went. You know, if anything, he might be a little bit cleaner than the original one was, but it is a little bit weird. It's a little bit weird, and it does mean that during posing, you're going to have a lot of stuff in the way in certain points. We'll get to that here in a bit, but it's, for what it is, about as clean as I would expect. Also, I'm going to point out, here in his back, he has these two little cavities. I don't know if you can see them on the camera, but inside these two little cavities, you do have these little gaps. That is where his additional weapons store, which I totally forgot to do. So apologies for that. I actually forgot about those entirely before I hit record. Very unprofessional of me, but it's a minor detail. Forgive me. So, what can we do with this guy? Well, for starters, we actually do have a matrix. So just like the original toy, the matrix compartment does actually open up to reveal like a very abbreviated version of the original matrix. There's no handles or anything, but technically it is the original depiction of a matrix in a Transformer toy. So that's kind of a big deal. What's cool about this version is it has a 3mm peg for blast effects. So if you want to shoot someone with the Matrix, this toy allows you to do it. So fun little bit there. Close that up so we can move on. So we do have the action features from the original toy. So we can flip the lion legs forward and release these gold bladed, essentially like little claws that basically turn these lion legs into bladed tonfas. Which is always a weird weapon, but it's kind of cool. Like, it's a little bit savage for an Optimus Prime. I kind of approve. Like, I think it fits. At least as far as, like, a beast mode convoy goes. It does mean there is a bunch of junk hanging off of his arms. You know, that's the downside. But I do like that there is some kind of play feature that goes along with it. That's always appreciated. So, what else can we do? Well, see, the cannons on the shoulders can still flip out, so we have those as extra weaponry, which he also used in robot mode in the cartoon. And then we do have these additional little blasters. So remove them from the storage space that I conveniently forgot about, and then mount them here, and you're going to have some semblance of how his original Beast Wars 2 gimmick worked, where you had this massive, like, cannon placement that folded out of the main. It's an interesting little feature, done about as well as you can do without, like, flip out missile launchers being a thing in Transformers anymore. But I'm glad they tried. I'm glad they actually made an effort to put it in. It would have been really easy to skip or make all the guns just plug on, but it's cool they did it this way. So you at least have some semblance of the original gimmick installed. Those guns also do have, like, it's a tab to hold the guns in place, but you also can put them in the hands. They are 5mm wide, so they will fit in the hand as a handgun if you really want. We're going to leave them like that, though, since that's correct and proper to the original. So let me get this guy into focus once again, and we'll go through one last little run of articulation to finish us up. So we do have a hinge or a swivel neck, no ball joint up and down, but you do go 360 all the way around the head. Shoulders are an interesting point on this toy. So you do have universal shoulders, but obviously there is quite a bit of kibble in the way. Luckily it's all hinged, so it all folds out of the way if you really need it. The lion head is a little bit more stubborn than these shells of back on his left arm, but you still get a good range of motion out of it. Just takes a little bit of working is all. Bicep rotation is there. Elbows are a 90-degree bend. Nothing in the wrist, thanks to the transformation method. Waist rotation is included. That works out really well. Universal hips, they've done a really good job of keeping those clear. Lots of freedom of movement in those. Thigh rotation works well. The knees, because of that digit grade, does have a little bit beyond 90. So he does have some extra work to the knees there. You can use I guess you can use the pivot down below, but it kind of just looks like his leg broke. So maybe keep that where it is and just use the ankle tilt. So he's got all the standard articulation that you would expect out of a modern day Voyager, which is pretty cool considering he's such a throwback design. I'm really happy that they didn't try to reinvent the wheel with this toy. He pretty much functions like a modern take on the original Lio Convoy without being like crazy eBay expensive to go get the original, and without any potential with the gold plastic that toy has a few parts made from. So it's a Lio Convoy to last a lot longer in that regard. But beyond that, yeah, it's a little smaller than the original. Feels like it has better articulation. And maybe, yes, there's some weirdness like the lion mode face, and maybe you want the missile launchers from the original. But for what it is, for a modern recreation of the toy, I think they did a really, really good job. It's still fun to play with. It still looks really, really good, especially if you like that Japanese Beast Wars style. So if you can find one, go out and grab it. It's kind of weird because this toy still feels new, but there's another new wave of Voyagers out right now. It's an interesting time to be a Transformers fan. Guys, I am facing the most powerful enemy any YouTuber can face, the algorithm, and I need your help to defeat him. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and leave a comment. Every time you do, we attack that algorithm and we drive it back until it can no longer defeat this channel. Thank you very much.